Hey guys, so today I am live with Ketan Makwana. I'm hoping I didn't butcher that name, but I probably have. It's all good. I'm sure he'll forgive me. Anyways, he's my British counterpart, as he says. We got the memo about the uniform, so I think we're sweet. Brother,
Hey,
jokes aside, how are you?
I'm really good, really good. How are you?
I am well, man. I think I was telling you just before, I'm like into my fifth or sixth coffee for the day.
Okay, I'm
That's
just
all
starting
good.
my first, so I'll try and catch up with you as quickly as I can.
Life of a digital entrepreneur. Okay, sounds good. Let me check your sound. Yeah, there we go, man. We're sweet. Dude, so first time we spoke, you dropped a huge bomb on me. Like, amount of stuff you've done in such a short time period of time is incredible.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
yeah. Just
Got to
start off with
keep
that.
busy, don't you? You got to keep busy.
Okay, I guess the question there then is, how many hours a night do you get of sleep? Last few years.
Um, oh no, I get my sleep. Don't get me wrong. If you ask my family, there whenever I've got my the spare moment, all I'm ever doing is sleeping, basically. But yeah, no, it's it's just the intensity, just just keeping moving forward and just doing things. It's not just about keeping busy; it's just really just
Hmm.
keeping active as much as possible, really.
Okay,
So
so
yeah, I mean, sleep wise, probably I still get my 6 hours a day, if not.
it's not too bad. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
Dude, so we know where you're at now, what you've kind of done, told people that in the little blurb, but actually, could you, for those who are just tuning in, they didn't just see the whole thing, could you tell us, what is your journey? Where are you at the moment? What is it you're doing?
Right now I have sort of two key areas that I work on. I have my company Enterprise Lab, which is a training and development agency. We are global. We work all over the world, helping people develop their mindsets, attitudes, and behaviors for success. Um, Alongside that, I do a lot of speaking. I'm now just currently I've just finished my 2016 tour, and I'm about to set up my 2017 tour. So I'll be coming hopefully to a town near you soon, Joss. But yeah, exactly. But they're the two key focuses I have, and I'm currently developing a project called Disruptor University as well. So again, like I say, trying to keep active, keep busy, and keep moving forward.
Awesome. Hey, we've got Toby Street in line. That's pretty cool. Toby's one of your fellow investors in the UK. Man, could you...
Yeah.
Okay, how did it all start? Because you've had an interesting journey over the last, say, 7 years. It's... What's your background? How did you get into this? How did it all unfold?
Okay. Well, I mean, I was good academically, but I didn't want to. I didn't finish university. I made that decision after the sort of pretty much the second lecture of university. I wanted to become a car designer, and the question I asked in the lecture to the professor was, "Have you ever designed a car?" And the answer was no. So I packed my bags and my book and my books, and I left. And it is quite abrupt as that. It's only when I walked out that I kind of realized that I thought, oh my god, I'm going to go and tell my parents that I want to leave university. So I'm come from Indian descent. So
No,
you
that's not
just
going to go
never
down
argue with
well.
your parents. Yeah, yes, they think you're going to become some nuclear physicist or some astronaut or something like that, and here I am, the rebel, of course, saying that I'm going to drop out of university. Um, so I actually moved into a career quite early on, so I was about 18, 19 years old. Moved into worked my way up from the standards sort of McDonald's to supermarkets to actually landing a job with an IT distributor. My first kind of work was very much about uh, ringing up people who wanted to buy a cable, for crying out loud, of all
That's
things.
cool,
The
man.
boring thing of getting a stack of papers this high. Everyone, do you want to buy a cable? Do you want to buy a cable? Do you want to buy a cable? Eventually, I started to talk to these people and converse with them rather than just sell them a cable. Moved into sort of account management with this IT distributor. Worked my way up into product management with the distributor. Seconded to Apple for 6 months to help them with the launch of the iMac. So this is why you can see that I haven't got so much hair left. You can probably tell what my age is. And then roughly around about sort of late 1990s, I got really intimidated and afraid about Y2K, the whole thing about the bubble bursting. And consider it or not, back then, as a sort of an early 20s kind of guy, I was making some really good money, and I left the industry just purely on the basis that I thought that's it, the whole IT industry is going to burst because of this Y2K thing. It's fairly naive of me, and I moved into electronics. And I haven't got a clue about electronics. I mean, about that time,
was that fear? Like,
sorry?
How legit was that fear? Was that a widespread thing that people actually thought that, or?
I don't know. Well, I can't probably answer for anyone else, but I myself was actually, this is how naive I was. I thought, right, that's it. The more I read about it and the more I heard about it, I thought this is going to really happen. And I couldn't afford to be in an industry that's going to collapse. So I thought, I've got to make a move. So I jumped ship. I moved out of IT and into electronics. As I say, I didn't really know much about electronics either, apart from plugging in something or switching something on. That's about as close as I was to the electrical kind of side of things. But I went to go and work for a signage company. So typical those types of signs that you see at football stadiums and at train stations and at airports. It's an LED signage company, and over 5 years working with them, I developed, designed, and implemented a patient call and information system that we see here in the UK. So it's a self-check-in system, which means you don't have to go to reception when you go to see your GP, and then the call system calls you forward. When I joined the company, they were turning over roughly about $250,000. I was about the fourth or fifth employee in. When I left them, my division alone had sort of turned over 4.6 million, and I had about 8 people working within my team. So kind of did quite a lot of expansive growth, and I suppose this is where I kind of learned a lot about business and learned a lot about management and stuff like this. I then kind of flipped straight into healthcare, and then I went to work for a number of healthcare companies until 2009, when I just brought the world's smallest dialysis machine to the UK, and then I was told I was surplus to requirement, no longer required, and put at high risk of redundancy, and I suppose that's where everything started to change. The turning point of where, when you're in that kind of position, you've got a young family, you've got bills to pay, just like anyone else. A lot of people are.
Okay, so you had a family stage then.
Yeah. By that time, I'd sort of married, and I had a young daughter. In fact, 2009, my son was 2, so it's a very young age, so 4 and 2 at that time. So there was a lot going on. To be put at that kind of high risk, most people would start to think about, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? How am I going to handle this? The job market wasn't as active or fluid as it used to be. So where you would have been a 20-to-1 ratio for a potential middle or senior management job, it was now kind of almost 2,000 to 20,000 to 1. So I thought, do I join the queue or do I create my own queue? And as a result of this, I kind of took the decision to go self-employed. Did something which most people think are a bit crazy, which is I went back to the very same company that was making me redundant and asked them for a job. I didn't ask them for an employed job, I asked them for a contracting role, to which I achieved. So my very first client was the company that was making me redundant. And this little tube light switched on in my head saying, oh, there's something here. Not only am I the only person that's lost their job or at risk of losing their job, so I created my first company, which is all about helping unemployed professionals go self-employed. So it was the right time for something like this in the market. Kind of pre-program these people in to understand the habits and attitudes of working on your own. We used acquire the projects, and the best way to get those projects were to pretty much go back into my network, into the industry. The company I used to work for wasn't the only company that had this kind of problem, so I asked around, and there were more and more contracts coming up. So I thought, great, take these interim contracts, give, because I'm a lazy bugger, I said, right, give it to everyone else to do the work. And my first company, Smarket, was born.
Okay, so what contracts are you talking about when you say outsourcing?
Yeah, so potentially there were things like they're mainly project management contracts. So this is where people were doing product development or they were looking at marketing development. There were in areas I was working with country managers of certain healthcare organizations to reset the operations. There were other, as we started to grow the business, then I started to take on more dynamic projects like people that needed website and marketing collateral developed, or people that wanted to build their sales pipelines and stuff as such. So, even though we were in a very uncertain climate at that moment in time, I think there was still opportunity for people that wanted to stabilize and try and grow their markets. So those are the kind of contracts that we're taking on.
Okay, so you're like essentially an employment agency, but you cornered that, I guess, the white collar market that couldn't really have full-time staff but still need those skills within their company. Is that
something along those lines. I mean, it could be a glorified recruitment agency. I specialize in outsourcing, and the whole point but really where my approach was coming on was on two counts. One is organizations and companies needed resource to continue what they're doing. They just couldn't afford it in the way that they would normally by employment. And on the other side of this, the coin, you've got a growing community of people who are skilled, who are experienced, but don't have the job. So for me, I was kind of like 10% of something's better than 100% of nothing, rather than sort of twiddling your thumbs and waiting for the job to arrive. Why don't you apply your skills to projects where you're needed? So that's where the two sort of things came in combination, really. And I suppose the good thing about that is it's timing. It was very easy to sort of assemble. It's very lean in its kind of operation. It was really focused down onto the type of projects that I could go and get in. Now, as you'll probably learn through this conversation, I can talk to the cows come home, really. So I don't have a problem going and getting gigs. It's a case of I was when you bite off more than you can chew, that's when I kind of came up with this whole thing of, well, I need to get other people involved, not from the business perspective, but the rollout of the projects. So within 6 months of setting up, we had almost 300 professional specialists who were self-employed, all in different areas: finance, design, graphics, sales, marketing, operations, quality assurances. And these are all actually people that had come from an extended network. So there's people that either I've worked with, worked for, or had some form of connection with during my sort of career.
Wow. So growing that agency, your recruitment company, I'm not even sure what to call it, you called it your outsourcing agency. What were the biggest challenges? Because I can't imagine going from an employee kind of role your whole working life to essentially a CEO. CEO? Is that what you were? Or?
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, Joss, I didn't think myself as an MD or a director or a CEO. It wasn't in my head. I was still really. I have to be honest. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I had to do something. So when I set up my first self-employed contract, even then I was like, I wasn't even unemployed at that time. I was at the risk of redundancy. I was at high risk of redundancy. Imagine walking into your boss's office and saying, right, okay, I'll take redundancy on one condition, that you give me a job. He's kind of like looked at me and said, Ket, he goes, I know this is a hard time, but listen to what you're saying. The challenges that come up with this is people sometimes often I wasn't really going into it to start a business and with the intention to start a company. I actually only went into it to serve my own purpose. But those that normally start up a business, an agency, they look to fast growth too quickly, and sometimes the challenges are that they're pushing too fast and they don't really understand the problems that they're solving or the problems that they're creating. And I suppose for me, it was very much more experimental. So, being able to go back into my home markets, being healthcare first, and then starting to go into wider markets, allowed me to sort of learn and understand more about the problems that we're solving. Most of it was a resource perspective. Now, the fact of it is that at that moment in time, the market was resource rich in the fact that there were so many people that were available that employers had had a tough time picking who they wanted because they have a selection of the best of the best. But the natural point, the other side of it is a lot of HR practices, especially in corporations, were doing job freezes. So the fact of it is companies still need to move forward, and the only way they can do that is by applying and maintaining on their projects. But if they don't have the resource to do it, where do they go? So for me, one of the biggest challenges was trying to explain to people what it is that we did, why we did that, and I suppose because we were so new to the market at that time, people to trust you, I guess. How can I be so sure that you can do this? And I think overcoming that challenge was being able to actually profile the quality of the outsource agents that were working with me, to be able to say that they've got X number of years of experience in here, they're X of this company, or they have this kind of projects under their table. So again, starting with a very small, humble kind of beginning, you apply yourself first, and then you start to. I was pretty much selling other people, into the companies more than anything else.
Okay. Let's talk numbers, dude. Is that business still running, or?
No. Smartket actually only ran for about a year and a half or so. We, very, very much quite quickly got contracts running because sometimes you're in the right time in the right place with the right groove, and as I say, people that are watching this have probably heard this before, but your net worth is equal to your network. So for me, the easiest way to get into the market was to go and speak to the people that I knew straight away, who I had a more extended relationship with. Within a short period of time, within sort of the first 6 months, I'd already sort of enrolled about 300 self-employed professionals into my network. And we were working towards around a paper-based sort of contract value of about £1.2 million. So what that means is that we had, if we took all the projects in line and we did all of the projects, we would have been turning over roughly about 1.2 million. So there was this kind of point where I got into the market, immersed myself, still not really knowing what I'm doing, but then having spoken to the right people in the right places, managed to actually secure. And it's a bit like that Midas touch bit for any of you that appreciate when you do a sale, that you're probably at your best version of yourself straight after a successful sale. You almost feel invincible. I used to use that, back in my sales days when I used to be employed and be selling for a company. It's one of the things that I used to train or be trained on, with the fact that you should keep moving as you are successful, because your energy and your flow is a lot greater. So whenever I used to secure a contract with a potential client, I would go and ring another 5, and out of those 5 get another one and another one and another one. And for me, it wasn't always just about having big, large, meaty, juicy contracts. Sometimes these small dynamic ones were a little bit much more profitable in that sense, because you could turn them around a lot quicker. So yeah, it's got 6 months in, 300 sort of outsource agents that I could sort of rely upon to give projects to. Potential contract values up to about 1.2 million. We were sort of singing. Another 6 months on, we started to work with another operation where, ironically, they're more resourced than they were outsourced. And what they were also doing is they were building businesses for exponential growth. So what they'd do is they'd put non-exec directors into companies and grow them. But they had a very specific criteria. That so the company has to have be turning over 2 million. They must have X number of people. There must be X, Y, and Z, for example. And I'm a bit of an odd bod. I don't like following the rules all the time. So I kind of asked the question generically on this: is that what happens to people that don't meet your criteria? And quite simply, the owner of the company said, "Look, guys, if they don't meet our criteria, we don't work with them." And I said, well, you're in resourcing, I'm in outsourcing, and they go, maybe we should work together. And he goes, how do you figure that out? I said, well, everyone that doesn't meet your criteria, they're my kind of client. I said, why don't you send them to me? I will then build them up using my network of professionals to the standard that you need them for, and then you can resource them with non-exec directors. We did about 6 projects, and next thing you know, I'm getting asked if if they could buy my model. They didn't want to buy my business. They just wanted to buy the model, which is an interesting concept. They said, we want to acquire you. The brands market didn't really stand for anything. It's what it was doing, which was quite interesting. So it was kind of under wraps, under closed doors. I just turned around and took an offer.
What does that actually mean?
Sorry?
Is that like meaning buying the intellectual property?
Pretty much. To that certain extent, it was the intelligence or the model of what we'd done. I mean, the fact that what they were doing also is they were acquiring the contracts that we had. They were acquiring the people that I'd built into my network. So essentially, what I was left with was the situation, which is, okay, I think this is great. We can make you an offer. Now, the guy, there were three options I had. I either sort of swallowed the company, as in closed the company down and went and worked with this guy. He bought the whole product. Or he would have just crushed me out of the market, because he was massively bigger than I could ever imagine to be. And fortunately for me, he chose the middle option. It just meant that I could actually get some value out of what I'd developed. And actually, this company now, I think that company's now progressed forward as well. But what they do is they have a two-tier system. They have an outsourcing program before they start resourcing. So it was, as I say, a little bit of being in the right time, right time, right place, right product kind of situation. So, as you said at the top of this thing, quite intense for the last 7 years and so. I don't like sitting still whatsoever, even though I'm sitting still right now. So I decided to go back into one of my core skill sets, which was product management, brand marketing within healthcare. But this time round, rather than just working with rich companies, I was looking to try and get out there in the world. I mean, it was almost a smokescreen to travel.
How much did you actually sell the HR company for?
My company for?
The outsourcing company.
Sorry?
How much did you? What was the buyout there?
Buyout was just short of $1 million.
That's pretty cool.
The buyout was just short of $1 million. I'm not going to give you the exact figure, but it was just short of $1 million.
That's cool.
Pounds, yeah. It's just because of the value, the poor value it had, the amount of agents that were built into it. Obviously, any of those that were going self-employed, any one of those that could then go into resourcing as the job markets opened up, there was potential there. Plus the contracts that were pretty much on the table and the companies that were engaged with. For my intents purposes, it was a fair deal. It was a fair deal. But then again, for a very long time, I didn't really know what I was doing, so I was naive. I didn't know. I was naive when I left the IT industry. I didn't know really what I was getting into and what I was doing when I set up the business. It was just I was just reacting and responding to certain things in the market space. And a lot of what I've done up to about 2011 has been very much about my gut. It's what my gut reaction, and then building. I don't react, I respond, but it's a gut reaction which is then built into a response. Instinct. So it's kind of like after walking away from that model. Yeah. So yeah.
Do you have any professional help when you sold the business, or was it purely just a paper deal and that's
paper deal? Very straightforward. Just for me, I just wanted straight talking English. It was just a case of why do you want to buy it? What do you want to do with it? And how much are you willing to give me for it? And the situation of this is sometimes you've got to think to yourself that you create something and you can only take it to a certain level. And someone else can actually come along and do a lot better or a lot more with it. Now, do I regret selling at that point because I could have had a multi-million-pound business by now? No, because the fact of it is I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if I was still there. But sometimes it's a situation that people ask me when is it a good time to sell, and how would you go around selling it? The first thing about this is understanding the value of who you're selling to and what they're going to do with it. Sometimes it's about businesses having to be broken down into smaller chunks to add that value. Some components of your company could be sold off and others could be retained. I mean, and that's very much a VC type of thing, but the essential part to this is I perhaps maybe this was just a calling to say, right, you've done your bit. You've created a good idea, you've created a gap, and the gap could emerge a lot better for someone else. So they've put a valuation to it and made that offer. And I thought to myself, great, if that's the case, then so be it. Let's go with it.
Awesome.
So I didn't really think anything more of it.
Cool. Okay, so moving on from there, we've got the first big milestone done. You've obviously graduated employee mode and starting to come into
entrepreneur mode.
Hustlepreneur.
I didn't even know what that was back then. I was just like, yeah, okay, just keep bumbling on, basically. So finished one end. Felt I wanted to get back into the market for from a consultancy base, but into healthcare. That's where my most relevant experience was. It's my last part of experience. So I started brand marketing and management agency. But as I was saying, I kind of wanted to be able to get out and see the world. So the agency specialized in niche brands from around the world that we could and when I mean that I was looking, you go to like health conferences and stuff like that and the exhibitions, and I'd kind of go and look for the smallest stand possible, the one that's got the cheapest looking stand, to go and see what it is that they have there, and then try and find out what I could do to help them get into the European market space. Now that kind of related very much to my experiences that I had in work. I had a lot of product management experience. I knew how to I knew how quality assurance modeling worked, etc. So we worked on a number of projects. I worked on a product called Soccer Aid, which Cristiano Ronaldo is the global ambassador for. That's quite cool. We worked on Makeup Academy, which was low-cost makeup that is available in stores here in the UK. Helped them with their sort of blogging systems, etc. We brought a series of products from Canada which are physiotherapy tapes, kinesiology tapes, into Europe. We worked on herbal remedies and stuff like that. Brought some of the stuff from sort of Latin and South America into Europe as well. But at the same time, I was building. I built my first magazine. It wasn't really a magazine. It was. Back then, MailChimp was the in thing, so what I used to do, MailChimp was the in thing back then. So, it was like a newsletter, but it was profiled like a magazine. So think about all your little blog pieces. Yeah. Your blog pieces will go on, and I used to create a front cover that looked like a magazine contents page, because I was quite prolific on Photoshop and Illustrator. So I started to build this kind of magazine. It was free subscription. I used to get experts from the industry to do all the blogs. So they used to write expert articles. So anything from orthopedic surgeons to Olympic athletes. I did an interview with Steven Gerrard, who's one of my heroes. I had Mark Bright do an interview for me, etc. So all these guys were pretty much putting all the expert content in, and then what I used to do is I used to align relevant products to those blogs, for example. Actually, one was a former
conscious thing when you're doing this, or was it strategic, or was it more like this was working, let's put some stuff together?
No, do you know what I was thinking? I thought to myself that, look, these products are coming in. I've got an opportunity to sell these products myself at I can get them, acquire them at such a ridiculous price and sell them at such a higher price. I said, while we're actually helping them move into the market space, we created an e-commerce platform, but we never held any stock of anything. It was always direct shipment from the vendor. So I didn't have to carry any assets, and I thought, right, one of the ways to actually get out in the market is everyone's writing blogs and stuff. I said, what if we did this in a magazine format? Using MailChimp as the platform, what we were doing is, you right now you can send those email marketing things out, so it's an email that gets sent out to you and it's got a list of all the different links on there. All we did is we made it really more sort of UX UI. We've created so much more sort of engagement this way through. Over the period of a year, we must have, because it was free. It was a free magazine.
Yeah.
We secured over 250,000 subscribers around the world to the magazine because it wasn't our product. It wasn't us. It's because they wanted to read about the expert or the celebrity that we've managed to interview. And the secret behind this, guys, is that I never used to meet any of these celebrities. We used to go through their agents. We used to send an email to them with these questions and say, can you just respond to these questions with a picture? And that gives us the content. So I used to work pretty much back then about 14 to 18-hour days, like middle of the night, doing all this graphic stuff because the intensity of the work to prepare all these magazine bits. But the more I worked on that, the more subscribers you were getting. Then we used to, as I say, align products to those blogs and articles, which were actually available on our e-commerce store. What we did manage to do over a period of a year is get about 100,000 of our subscribers to have an average transactional value of about £20 on our e-commerce site, which is quite cool because we were making. We had on one side the core of the business was actually to do brand management consultancy and help people build their products into Europe, but on the other side of it, we were actually making more money, if not, on people buying products from us. And the great thing about this is we had no warehouse because as soon as the order came in, it goes straight to the vendor, basically.
You've almost got like a two businesses in one. Then in that case, you've got your consultancy and your e-commerce business, and just hey, let's put some stuff together. Put a website.
Yeah. But the thing was with this is we worked on it. We carried on going, and it got to the stage where FitPro, the magazine, approached me for some work. They wanted me to help work on doing sort of a marketing campaign for a new product that we're bringing into UK rugby. I don't know if any of you know, it's like that kind of vault. That thing, it's just like a long cylindrical thing where you gotta grip it from inside, and it allows you to move. It's to work your upper body up. We started to work together, and they got a bit of insight on what I was doing with my e-commerce and my magazine, because I said, "Oh, I've got my own magazine, but it's not a magazine." And they go, "What is it?" And then we looked at the numbers, and again, it was quite interesting. They were really attracted by the number of subscribers that were buying products from us. So I got asked if I would be interested in selling my data to them. So I did. I thought, okay, maybe this is time for me to move on from what I'm doing here. So I did. So yeah, two businesses in one. That's the very nature of me. I have this whole thing where, I have my core, and then what I try and do is attach value-added bolt-ons to the offering that I do. Not almost instantly. You start in one lane, and you start to see where you can go, because I suppose time was changing, people were changing, technology was changing. Again, I was really early stage with things like Twitter and things like MailChimp and CRM systems, but we got the grasp of it. I think at that moment in time we were really active on things like Twitter, but again, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know what I was doing. Maybe looking back at it in hindsight.
What was your intention with these businesses? Was it to grow it into a company? Was it just to make $1 or just occupy your time?
Like lifestyle business to be more than anything else. I think up till now, it's always been about lifestyle because remember, I come from an environment where I didn't choose to start a business. I was almost forced to start a business because I had no other option. So I think in my mentality, for the first few years was very much of just create a buck so you can afford to live, more than anything else. And that mindset built in the way that you would then put together so many different types of products or services within your business that will enable you to actually get out and earn. So the first company was really more hands-on, in the fact that you needed to go out and get projects. The second one was more digital. It's kind of interesting. We weren't doing as much work, or in fact, I was hardly doing any work per se in the business. It was more of a case of finding people, creating adverts, and
so you were running
perhaps
ads as well then.
Yes, I mean I was designing all the adverts and stuff like that,
Okay.
and I was, the top part of it is using my strategic experiences. So when I got a potential client, it's making an assessment and an
Mm.
understanding of what the business needed or what the product needed, what it lacked, where it could go, what the core market should be, where they start, and then because I understood the sort of product management process of bringing a product in, like of such nature, it's the typical steps that they need to undertake to get there. So I mean the bulk of the business
Mm.
for MedZoom started purely on consulting people on how to bring a product into the market. But what I actually ended up making most money about was the e-commerce
E-commerce
side of
subscription.
things.
So was it actually e-commerce, or was it the subscription, the value lied in it? Was it more or a
Yeah, so
combination?
so I think it was the value of the database, because if I what would you value back then, 100,000 people or names that are spending £20 with you. That's, potentially it's got a good value. I mean, I think the pro are kind of interested to see if they could get them subscribed onto their magazines, and
Yeah.
anything that they were doing from thereafter. So I mean, that kind of offer, that potential came from the fact that, again, when we were building the magazine, we had no intention to say, oh, we're going to build this and sell it, and or anything like that. So it was a case of, I wanted to create a channel by which we could communicate where our
Okay.
products and what products and
You
services are
found
available,
you
but
found a
do it
related
in a
value to
way.
your core business and
Yeah,
basically grew it.
exactly, but do it in a way where it's not us talking about it. It's people, that are highly regarded,
Mm.
excuse me, or well known in the industry. So it was in its own way kind of brand ambassadoring, except that what we
Really.
were doing is we were using expert authority back
Mm.
then and actually aligning it to the products that we were representing in the market. I mean, one of the products that I had was a product called Dinosaur Nutrition, which was by a former Mr. Universe, and it was great. I had a series of products, and things like the sports therapy tapes, where I had
Mm.
footballers on one side talking about product, and just as we were launching in this side across Europe, Gareth Bale, who was back at Spurs back then, basically, was wearing it at one of the Champions League matches, which they lost. But he was a back page of the press,
Mm.
and it just helped us. So for me, I was still in discovery mode, very much so. I was just kind of,
Mm.
right, where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? By no means
Did you ever have
or
any mentoring
way.
during this whole process, or was it always
No,
just
no.
you doing your own thing?
I was just bumbling. I was just like, okay, I was like doing the kind of Tarzan thing, waiting for the next rope
Yeah.
to kind of, so I could jump onto it. But one thing that came out of this was, my career experience, the things that I'd done in my career, the way I'd, worked in different projects, the way I've handled different things. It kind of helped me kind of see the little bit of foresight. I wasn't looking too far ahead. It was just, where is the next branch that I've got to leap onto, more than anything else. I think, again, we're very, in today's environment, we find that a lot of people are very, very focused on their end goals.
Mm.
Whereas, right from the beginning, I've been very much a person that just looks at the next branch in front of me.
Okay. Next branch. What's next? Next thing. Oh, by the way, we want to acquire you. Okay, so let's
No,
do that.
it wasn't really an acquirement. They wanted to buy the data, and I think
Okay.
when I got to the stage where someone goes to me that they want to make an acquisition of some point, I think I asked that question, right? Do I want to carry on with this, or do I, what do I do? I think, for me at that time, to take the opportunity to sell data was great.
Mm.
I think whatever I was working on at that moment in time it had a limited framework built around it. And what I meant by that is, I'd only have to grow to a multi-organization, have officing and resource and staff and
Mm.
this and that. And I don't think, remember, I told you, back then for me it was very much about
Lifestyle.
a lifestyle business. I wanted to be lean. I just wanted to be able to afford a lifestyle for myself, more than anything else. So,
So next stage of growth there is takes you out of the zone you want to be in. So it's like, I can
yeah,
grow, I can make a
yeah.
lot more money, but I lose my lifestyle. So it's kind of that choice of
Well, this
between.
is it, and I still didn't see myself as a CEO or anything
Mm.
like that. So, I took the offer, and then I took some time off work. I had the ability not having to go off and do a lot of stuff. So I went to go and give some talks in some colleges, just to some students who were back then, that we were now coming through. This is, you're talking about sort of late 2010, early 2011. Got to the stage where basically tuition fees have been introduced in the UK. Those were thinking about going to university who couldn't even, and now had the biggest challenge about affordability as well. So I really wanted to go and give something back to say, look, I'm someone that never finished. I go, but the grass is definitely not greener on the other side. You've got to apply yourself a lot much more. And I suppose one of the biggest feedbacks or experiences I got was, I felt that it was really great. It was really good to just go back and engage with students and be on the other side of the desk, as opposed to sitting behind the desk being the person that's giving the lectures and stuff. But equally at the same time, that experience came with a heavy frustration, and that was that I felt that there was a big gap in life skills, that students were really they were just wrapped in cotton wool with academia and the fact that what life is really about. This whole lure of come and get a degree at certain university and then you're going to get a job with the big five consulting and all of this kind of stuff.
Guys. There's no real practicality about what they're teaching in universities.
No. So I decided not to. I decided I'll go. This is something where I want to focus myself into, and that's where Enterprise Lab got born. Enterprise Lab was initially a business that was bridging the gap.
Skip to company here. So
yeah. I'm coming back to that one. I'll come back to the media company in a second, because actually Enterprise Lab started its projects before the media company came. This all happened at the same time. This all happened in 2011. So 2011, the first thing I did is started to come up with the idea of bridging the gap between education and employment. So we want to be able to go and facilitate life skills into young people. So whilst education is the framework to learning, we wanted to use entrepreneurship as a framework to life. So real simple things like creating employability challenges or business challenges which students could engage into, so they can get an experience of what life is like outside of academia. And 2011 is pretty much when we also.
How does that work as a business model?
How does it work?
Is that a training company, or how does?
Yeah. So Enterprise Lab is a training company. Essentially, what we used to do is we work two ways. We used to reach out to the businesses to identify what we could do to help them develop their status and stuff. So using my previous two companies' expertise in regards to strategy, growth, development, but at the same time we used to take life challenges from those businesses and apply them into schools, colleges and universities. And then
businesses, what do you mean?
Yeah. So you could have a company that wants to grow their sales by 2% or introduce a new product to the market, or whatever the typical challenge, that a day-to-day challenge a business owner would be facing. We take that on as a real-life challenge and apply that into the education environment. So we would now go into a college and work with a group of students for 7 weeks, for example, on how to build a response to the challenge a business has. And then they used to pitch their ideas back to the businesses. So the whole purpose of this product was to bridge the gap between education and employment, was to give young people the opportunity to really work on something that's real, not just some fake.
It's not a theory. It's like a legitimate business. Like, instead of working with your university, we'll give you a theory of what you can do. We're gonna connect you with a real business who's actually facing a problem and do that. How to monetize? Who's actually paying your bills in that company?
So it's normally the institution that's paying. So there are budgets made available from through education. So colleges made their own budgets through, and so did the universities. So they would pay us to come in and work with the students. We would go and get all the other bits and pieces of the work done. So I mean, this is in sort of early 2011. We started as a project. We didn't start the company. It was just it was called Enterprise Lab, and the whole purpose of it was to actually bridge the gap between education and employment. In the summer of 2011. We had the riots here in the UK, which were really, resonant around young people lashing out. I came up with an idea over a period of sort of 10 months to build a showcase called Youth Enterprise Live, which was my response to the riots, which the Prime Minister got involved with. And it was roughly around that sort of same time, the summer of 2011. This is when we stabilized and created, or I stabilized and created Enterprise Lab as a company.
Who's we?
Well, I had two co-founders at that at that time that came in with me basically to Enterprise Lab. We set up the company in May, and we really were going out to try and leverage this whole working with young people, bringing live challenges to facilitate stuff. Over the period of summer 2011 until around about October 2012, I designed and developed Youth Enterprise Live, which was a showcase event for young people. We got a lot of companies and organizations and individuals involved. That then helped me launch the media company that I wanted, which was going to be managing that event. Now, things were starting to get a little bit messy now in my life, because I'd now almost jumped into the sort of the pit full of piranhas in the fact of all these different projects, and I'm being pulled left, right, center. I'm giving up a lot of time to do work on other parts of projects. I'm now in a new environment. I've moved away from service division of delivering services to now helping train people to deliver services. So, I ended up having two companies sort of running side by side. There were conflicts of interest with the media company, so I had to step down from that media company. As a result of stepping down, I didn't realize that, the simplest mistake that I made is I didn't communicate my intentions to the people that I had working with me, or my supporters or my sponsors at that time. And as a result of that, the media company really sort of took a hammering. Also, the two co-founders that I had in that media company, whilst I felt that they had the right requisites and skills to operate in the industry with their experiences, they weren't natural leaders of the business. So having a company that was 70,000 in revenue plus, to within 9 months being almost 100,000 in debt, and then going through liquidation because I'd stepped down from that company. I wasn't even being engaged with, in the fact that people weren't telling me there were issues going on. The two other directors were just getting on with what they thought was the right thing to do, even when the accountant was saying, get the guy back in so he can
so
he
you
can
really
help.
Were the driver of the media company, and then did you start
The media
training
company.
development? Did you start
I
training
started
development with the other guys, or did you start them both separately?
another set of people with Enterprise Lab. Basically, that there were the two people that I started that with had different values. In fact, we met, all three of us met on Twitter. We then kind of had shared the same views, and we said, screw it, let's just start this. The response to Youth Enterprise Live, the media company, was completely different. I brought someone in who had years of experience from the event industry, and someone quite young and dynamic who had really good skill bases on being creative in terms of graphics and stuff like that. So it's kind of a situation where, the decisions on where my flow was going towards was it changed. But I was wearing many different hats in many different places, and this whole bit of wearing yourself really thin. So again, it's just for who's watching out there. I got to a stage where my excitement and my enthusiasm was my very killer. The fact that I was getting so intensely enthusiastic about what I was doing, I was just saying yes to everything. As a result of this, as I say, you become more and more sort of not disillusioned, but your effectiveness becomes diluted. I'm also coming into a market which was with a typical challenge. I'm coming into a market where there are already established players, and all of a sudden I turn up. I'm a Mr. Nobody, unknown. What the hell are you here about? Who are you, and why are you here? Why are you getting attention? To a certain extent, and those challenges come with its own those things come with its own challenges as well. So as a result of this, I kind of just I let things go. I let things kind of slip with the media company, but I always knew that the training and development company was something that I needed to focus on. Enterprise Lab was doing quite well after setting up the business challenge program, the employability programs. We managed to get those into about 40 colleges across the UK. And it's about that time where I think the international spirit was calling. So by 2013, I was pushing out a license model of our products into 11 countries, where we were adopting other larger training organizations to just license our products, so kind of off the shelf. But we were getting into parts of Africa, Asia, the US. And for me, I felt that this was the right purpose. Today I can I can say quite proudly that the simple products of the employability challenge and the business challenge is now catered to almost 500,000 people around the world. So for me, I knew we were onto something, but I was also quite a narcissist. I think we got to the stage where one of the co-founders wanted to go back and do something else, so we gave him his grace, and then got to the stage with my second co-founder who also had a vision for social and stuff like this, very passionate about social impact and stuff. I didn't really want to turn the business social as an enterprise. I wanted to do things with social. But there was also kind of a cut where I was working on personalized projects with my own consultancy as well. So there was kind of an imbalance going on. So it got to a stage where co-founder said, "Look, I want to go and do these things. You don't want to do this," and we found our own split ways. That brought me up to about 2014, 2015, which is only more recently, which is when I made the decision to actually shut down all the licensing and actually become more of a global operator. And what I mean by that is we started to look at putting in engagements like keynotes and programs more aligned with other companies and organizations that are doing things in their sort of country area. So rather than actually having Enterprise Lab as an academy in all these different countries, I said, no, what we'll do is we'll become experts and purveyors. What we'll do is we'll come into your events, or we'll come into your institutions, and we'll deliver for you the value that you're looking for. So usually the ethos and the model of that for Enterprise Lab then was to identify people that have the groups already, so we don't have to market those. And we've slowly adapted over the period. Now the company has a load of freelancers that work with the company, so you can see my old outsourcing model still there. So projects that we get, I outsource to freelancers who have specialities in those areas. So if we're doing a social project, if we're doing one in entrepreneurship and education, or if I'm doing something in corporate innovation, I have different specialists who run their own small micro companies.
Okay, so when you say that, I'm a little bit confused, because originally I understood it was licensing this model where you take a business and you take a college and connect them together. What is it now?
We moved away from the license. So the first thing we used to do is license the training agencies, bigger training agencies in different countries. They used to then sell our products and make money off the product itself. I felt to myself that what happens is we weren't getting so much direction, we weren't getting so much exposure, because it's someone else. So the program powered by Enterprise Lab. So I wanted to get some more direct connectivity into the market. So we started to work with other institutions. So working with universities, organizations, and institutions around the world. They have the product opportunity. We would provide the solution in terms of the training and needs.
More back to your original model then, except
And the reason I started to do that is because what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring the brand association a lot more closer, a lot more unique. Then what we now do is, as I say, is we have a series. Then I flipped it because I was out there doing it pretty much myself. I've now flipped the model where people understand the brand, they value the products and the services that we have. But I'm not always the native deliverer of the products and the programs. So now what I've done is I've now started to bring my outsourcing model in, where I have freelancers who work with me in my business area. So if there are keynotes or programs that need to happen in universities, there could be a group of specialists that does that. If what we're also starting to see, that institution and education isn't the only market that wanted our kind of services. Adult education, then into small startup and the micro business, and then also corporations were starting to look at the type of work we're doing. So we evolved from being a company that bridged the gap between education and employment, and we became more of a company that focused on people's behaviors, attitudes, and mindsets. And this is what Enterprise Lab is kind of focused on today. What we do is we work on helping people change their mindsets through attitude and behavioral development.
Okay, and that's delivered through training programs or?
Training programs. It's delivered through seminars, keynotes, all the type of same thing. Typical model. So corporations have their own product, their own programs and structures. We come in and facilitate into those. Institutions already have certain products, and we come and facilitate into those. Essentially, what's happening here is, rather than actually saying we're coming into the market with a script of products and we're trying to market it to you, we work the other way. We go into the universities, into the institutions, or into the corporations and say, all right, what is it that you're trying to deliver? What is it that you can achieve? Because there is going to be a slither of stuff that you can't do that we can do for you. So we almost become the service provider and gap builder to these kind of businesses. So it's great. We bring our own.
Your model now is more your solution provider. You go to these guys, say, hey, this is what we do, this we've done for other people. What is it, the gap that you guys are trying to achieve right now? If we can, we're going to find a solution for you. We're going to get the right knowledge.
We will find the solution for them. Yeah, so consultancy. So you can see that's the consultative approach. It's the consultative approach first. At the end of the day, we'll go in and we'll say, look, what is it that you're trying to do? What is it trying to achieve? What is it that hasn't worked? So we interview them as much as we can. Then we start to initiate with them. We say, right, okay, we can bring in certain things. I can come in as an expert. I can work from an advisory capacity. I can help you design your own programs, or I can give you some of my off-the-shelf stuff. So at the end of the day, what we do is we will always, whichever client we step into, we will always provide them some level of service or value. At the same time, I brought in a range of one-to-one products as well. So this is where people can work with me on a one-to-one level. So today what you see is a company that works internationally with institutions, organizations, and community groups to provide to service their vision or their solution. And on the other side, we have a one-to-one program where more sort of would-be entrepreneurs, should be entrepreneurs, could be entrepreneurs, and sort of those that are actually in business can work with me on a one-to-one level, where they can get strategic insights. I can help transform them as an individual, or then hold them accountable to build their business strengths, really. So it's kind of had a really major transition from just kind of trying to make a business that
to a consultancy. Almost a consultancy that turned education company. So you consult and you provide the solution to them. Yeah. How long are these contract based, or how are they? How are you?
They're normally project based. They're normally project based. Contract doesn't really tend to work in this environment, and I think there are some people that can get annual contracts and stuff like that, but I don't like working in that environment. I go, we're more disruptive in our nature. So, for example, for the last 2.5 years, I've been doing a lot of work in Central America. And now I've decided that I do want an academy there. So we built a virtual academy of products, which are being serviced by one of my business partners there, which is a more established training company. And together, it's my brand and their sort of credence that goes in. We are looking in that environment to some corporations to give us 12-month contracts to service their training and development needs. But I'm not really a stickler for that. I prefer the more dynamic, piece by piece, project by project, because you can make a project go 12 months, or you can impact a project and finish it within 3 weeks and start another one. And I think sometimes if you're tied into a contract with someone, especially if you're working corporation wise, there's the whole thing of exclusivity and non-competitiveness, so it could restrict you from working with someone else in the industry as well. So for me, it's always project by project. It means we're much more agile, we're much more leaner, and I have more control over where or what we're doing.
Cool. could you tell us a bit of numbers? Where is the business at currently? What has kind of shifted since you
So
shifted the model?
so when we first started, we get on quite quickly. First year we were over sort of 50,000-60,000 in revenue. All my companies have always been within a sort of a profit or at least a minimum break even. We've never been in a sort of a negative position in that respect, and that's just purely because it's the way that I treat my businesses in that respect. But we had a gap of at least 2 years where we then accelerated quite well, because when we create the license model, it's £100,000 per license for 11 countries, gives you almost the kind of revenue that feeds through. But then that came with some of its challenges, where some of the license fees weren't paid up fully in time, and it's all retrospective and where it went. But there was a lull for about 2 years within the company as I was doing other projects and working more on my personal consultancy. As I say, there was a diversion and a split of the co-founders, and the business took a hammering, where we kind of went down to only about £40,000-50,000 of revenue per year coming through. But we're now starting to see an upturn. 2015 and 2016 has seen a marginal, real sort of good growth stint that's running through, especially the fact that we've acquired a series of products and services which work on a one-to-one level, it doesn't mean it's just people in the UK. I have clients from all over the world that work with me on the one-to-one level, which brings a depth of revenue. Plus we are now tendering out for more collaborative projects and tenders, which will bring in good six-figure revenues. So we're aiming to peak the business over £1 million revenue by this time next year.
Brilliant. And what's that in terms of profit? Because I know you'd have staffing and all your outsourcing fees.
We always have a 30-35% margin rate minimum. We normally go into the market with a 45% margin rate, so our profitability will be quite healthy as well with it. I have a unique the beauty of working with freelancers is you're not tied to employability and pension and all these kind of things. But the second thing about this is you have two ways of we have two ways of working. I give standard rates for projects that I've acquired into the company, and at the same time, if any of the freelancers bring a project to Enterprise Lab, they get 70% of revenue. So we our profits are quite and that's how we build. That's how we capacity build. So any new projects or anything that I'm planning to do, I don't build out of revenue that I do it out of the profit that we make in the business. So the only way that you can build a business is using your profit, not your revenue. Your revenue is just the cash into the business. If you're reinvesting, you're investing your profits in the business. That's the mentality I've always had. You can only work on what you can afford to work on.
Okay. Where to from here?
Well, so right now, as I say, we're investing in a new project called Disruptor University. I feel that Enterprise Lab has now finally firmed its positions in what it's doing. I'm quite happy with the model and where it works, so it's now affording me more time to work on this new project of mine. Disruptor University is pretty much going to be a Netflix for skills and training. So the idea of this is we're going to engage and interview experts from all over the world that are disrupting their industries or have disrupted their industries, to get their genius out, to get their expertise out, which we are then going to curate into workbooks and masterclasses, which will be accessible for all our members and audiences. We already have a magazine that's live. We launched that magazine in April 2016, and it's a proper magazine. It's a digital publication where the subscribers drive the content, and the whole idea of it is the publication will also sit on the platform as well. So it's working on the same premises as things like Udemy and Skillshare and stuff like that, but with a different purpose. We want to produce content that will help others disrupt their industry. For me, I believe video is the future, and it is the current and the future for tomorrow. The way in which we curate the content is going to be important to help people practice, learn and train. And as then sometimes it's about giving access to people that normally wouldn't be able to get access to experts of this nature. Excuse me. So the future project over the next sort of 6 months or so is to Disruptor University up and running. I believe this is my big ticket product now. So this is the one that hopefully I can retire on.
Brilliant. So when you say retire, you want to idea is to grow this to something huge and sell it, or what's your?
No, I just want to produce something that that's large enough and sustainable enough that will afford me to just spend my life going around, going on stages or spending all life doing things like this, just being on interviews and stuff, just sharing knowledge. So at the end of the day, it's one of my evergreens that I always want to be kind of traveling the world and going on stages and impacting people, but you've got to be able to afford to do that in life. So I'm building the business around me to make sure that I can afford to do that.
Guys, we might just hang on a couple of minutes if anyone else has any questions for Ketan. Just noticed Alex Sharfin's on the line as well, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
He's a cool dude. You guys, are you connected with Alex Sharfin?
I'm not sure really. I mean, I need to see.
US-based entrepreneur, does a lot of training development as well.
Right. Let's have a look.
It's all good.
Let me just check, actually.
The beauty of doing things live.
Put a comment into the Facebook. I'm checking on my phone. I'm checking the Facebook as we go. Oh, cool. I've got a few friend requests coming through, so that's good.
Always a bit of fun. So,
yeah,
is this your first time doing actual live on there with someone else, or? Yeah,
it's my first time actually doing a dual live like that, where you're on and I'm on at the same time. But obviously it's kind of cool, and I think one day you're going to teach me how to do this yourself, so I can take over Facebook Live like that, or maybe I just take over yours. I'll come to Australia and do a takeover for you. Take over your show.
That would be interesting. I'd love to play with that concept. Actually, what I'd love to do is hot seats, live hot seat with somebody who can dial in. Guys, if anyone's hearing this, I'd love to get some applications, see who would want to do it.
Hot seats.
I don't think anyone has done that.
I'd be getting. I think the whole concept of taking over someone's show would be great. Just for one episode where I just take over. God help if you trust me, Joss, to take over your show. But
the problem with that is you look too much like me. I think people actually believe it's me.
It's the light and legend of Joss. It's Joss's brother. Yeah, actually, do you know? Looking at that picture, it does. We do look the same. That's scary. Brother from another mother. That's what I say.
I mean, I don't think there's any other questions at the moment, so I think we'll call it a day, man. And if anyone has questions, I'm sure Ketan will answer them later. But
just
where can people connect with you?
No. Sorry?
Where can people connect with you?
Well, on Facebook, obviously. If you are a Twitter fan, at Ketan_Makwana. And Insta is Ketan Mac. I can put them into the feed basically, but if you want to learn more about what we do, enterpriselab.co.uk. And if you're interested in getting involved with the magazine, because as I say, as a subscriber you can write and broadcast your expertise whilst advertising your business, it's enterpriselab.co.uk/magazine. It's only $47 a year, and it gives you great global exposure. So you can find me along that side. If not, maybe I'll be hitting a stage near you at some point soon.
That's awesome. Alright guys, we'll catch you all in the next stream.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, guys.